Thank you, Tommy, and thanks also to the Student Government Association. Thanks also to Stevens Institute of Technology, President Varden, and the team here at DeBon for welcoming us to this beautiful space for the evening and for partnering with the Quality of Life Coalition to present our mayoral candidate forum. Tonight we have the opportunity to ask our 6 mayoral candidates about their vision, their platform, and precisely how they intend to make Hoboken an even better place. Thanks to each of you here, including our candidates for making the time to join us during this busy season, and also to those who will be watching at home or at a later date. Your interest and active participation in the electoral process are very important, and we really appreciate it. A little bit of background. The Hoboken Quality of Life Coalition is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, Section 501c3 organization, which was formed back in 2000 to encourage and support civic engagement and education on the myriad of issues that affect those of us who live in this densely populated urban environment. Along with other student activism over the years, we've hosted these forums for over a decade to help people appreciate what is going on in the community, to get to know our potential elected officials, and to have an opportunity to ask them questions that are important to us. It's very important that they get to know us as well, so that they appreciate our concerns and can go about presenting a platform that's going to take care of those issues. We are taping this evening. The link will be posted on our website, which is qlchoboken.org, and on our Facebook page, search for QLC Hoboken. Please share the word with your friends and family members who have not been able to join us this evening. I wanted to let you know the prior forums that have occurred have been submitted through the city to Cablevision, but apparently there's been a little bit of a snafu there. So for those of you who are looking for it on Cablevision, it will be made available. I want to thank my fellow board members for making this come together tonight. Melissa Abernathy, Tom Chartier, Inez Garcia-Kime, Esther Milsed, Shelby Smith, and temporarily on leave, Eduardo Gonzalez. I also want to acknowledge Helen Minogue, our founder and chairwoman emerita. It really is because of her tireless efforts and dedication over so many years that allowed this opportunity to exist and these forums to come to fruition. And now I'd like to introduce Bob Bowden, our moderator. Bob is the Executive Director of Choice Media, an education news service, website, and smartphone app. He's a longtime Hoboken resident and has moderated most of our forums over the year. I'm sure that he will do a great job tonight with the appropriate gravitas and maybe a little humor as well. So Bob, if you could please share the rules of engagement and introduce the candidates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. 1, 2, 3. Is this mic on? All right. So first of all, just to voice the question I think everyone had, Thomas of Stevens, the speaker here, are you still here in the room? Where are you? Yeah. Is it an open bar tonight at the wine reception? It's free. It's an open wine, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to give you that first. A little round of applause for the open wine. And let's see, just a couple of notes. One is I was here 25 years ago in this room. Pardon? Louder? Okay. Okay. So for some of you standing downstairs, there's maybe some seating upstairs in the balcony if you're interested in that. I just wanted to point out an completely irrelevant point, which was, who's heard of Troma Films, the low-budget horror film company? Raise your hand. A tiny smattering of uninterested people. All right, well, anyway, I was, 25 years ago, I was sitting over there when there was allegedly a murder on stage for this film. I was in the film. It was terrible, but if you want to look it up, it's called Sergeant Kabuki Man, shot here. So that said, just a couple other notes. Please turn off your cell phones. In fact, I'm going to do that right now with mine, or at least put them on stun or whatever. And you could use this opportunity to build what I would like to call attention surplus. Attention surplus, that's what I'm trying to say. And another note is that, we get questions. You guys are filling out the questions on the white cards. we do reserve the right to paraphrase questions as they come in. That's what we have done for 10 years. Sometimes questions are long, sometimes they're overly narrow and we make them slightly more broad. Sometimes they're worded in a way to say, what are you going to do about this stupid plan that everybody hates in town? And I'm trying to make it seem less partisan sounding of a question. So just so you know, I often paraphrase questions, and if you're unhappy with that, we urge you to host your own forum. And then finally on timekeeping, we have Shelby, the timekeeper, here. So it's going to be, oh yeah, a little round of applause for Shelby. So the opening statements are 1 minute. Basically, everything's 1 minute except a 90-second initial answer. So opening statements 1 minute, answers to questions 90 seconds, rebuttals 1 minute, and closing statements 1 minute. And that's how it works. And so, when you're 10 seconds away from the end of your time, she will hold up this, is that yellow? Okay, the lighting is hard to see. That's the 10-second card. And then when your 10 seconds are over, oh, okay, there's that. What about the gong? You got the gong too. You're gonna, yeah, I mean, by tradition, we have the gong.
That's awesome.
And often then you can finish your sentence if you hear the gong, and then before I'll jump in. All right, that's it. And the one last note, as you guys probably know, I have this random number generator with the names, your 6 names on here, and I'll show. Can you guys see the screen at all? So each time I hit this button, you'll see the names bounce around, and it's a random number through the spreadsheet, and that's how we'll be determining the order of all of the talking tonight. So, with all of that said, we're going to begin with 1 minute opening statements. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, 0 on the random number generator here. 3, 2, 1, and 0. So Mr. DeFusco will be the first opening statement. And by tradition, we allow applause during opening statements, not later during the forum, but during the opening and closing statements, we allow applause. So Mr. DeFusco's first.
Thank you very much, Bob. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to the Hoboken Quality of Life Commission. I'm Councilman Mike DeFusco. I first moved to Hoboken 14 years ago, the day after I graduated from college. 7 years I've been spent serving the city, both as a city councilman as well as a zoning board commissioner. I believe it's time that we get back to basics, pave our streets, make sure we fix potholes, clean up our sidewalks, and that's the job of municipal government. We need to have a vision for the future as well, a vision where we can help small businesses and invite tech and creation spaces into Hoboken. Because we have a $130 million deficit in the city. We've bonded and borrowed under this current administration, and we need to find positive ratables. So I'm surrounded by years of politicians here. 9-year politician in Anthony Romano, 8 years in Ravi Bala, 6 in Jen Giattino. They're going to tell you where their ideas are for the future, but what you need to ask is where have they been? I'm surrounded by 2 community activists without any experience in the political realm, and you need to ask, are they qualified for this job? This debate is about facts, and I'll be presenting facts. And if the facts sound negative, it's perhaps because they might be. Thank you very much, Bob.
Ms. Giattino.
Hello. I'm Jen Giattino, and I've lived in Hoboken for 20 years. Whoop. I get a redo? I am Jen Giattino, and I've lived in Hoboken for 20 years and have made my life here with my husband and 3 children. I love this place. The 3 main reasons I am running: to make a plan to get development right by diversifying the development in Hoboken and concentrating on commercial development, to resolve numerous quality of life issues, including displacement, to continue to improve our resiliency and aging infrastructure. I will be a mayor who listens. I will walk our neighborhoods as I already do. I will have my personal cell phone available for constituent calls. I will have regular office hours set aside for residents to speak to me without the need for an appointment. This is the kind of mayor I will be. This is who I am. I want to be mayor for everyone, serving both you and this beloved city.
Mr. Romano.
Good evening to the wonderful people in the audience and to the wonderful Stephen staff and the Quality of Life for having this. I'm Anthony L. Romano, born and raised in Hoboken, attended Brant, St. Peter and Paul, St. Peter's University, where I had the honor of playing baseball, earning a degree in Bachelor of Arts, secondary education, and then on to New Jersey City University, where I earned a degree in criminal justice sociology. I was on the Hoboken Board of Education. I've been a member of the Hoboken High School staff, as well as the proud moment to be a Hoboken police officer rising to the rank of captain, culminating in being the night commander towards the end of my career. I've been elected by the wonderful people of this city and Jersey City to the office of Hudson County Freeholder, where we've accomplished many things with Hoboken. Unlike other people on this dais, I intend to unite the people of this city. I intend to solve problems and stop putting blame, and I intend to be hands-on management, and I'll be there on Washington Street to make sure that the work is done.
Ms. Nason.
Hi, I'm Karen Nason. I own Hoboken Hot House on 2nd and Monroe. I am the face of a small business owner, and everyone out here knows what I've done for the city of Hoboken. I have called out the planning and the zoning officers. I have done reports. I have done articles. I have been shut down on one of my businesses, unfairly so, and I have watched this entire 8 years of it, this administration, and that means everyone sitting next to me, including Dawn Zimmer herself. I have watched an entire city in a debacle and something that shouldn't be happening, and I promise you, as your mayor, I have more experience than what Mr. DeFusco thinks. Running a small business, running a business in New York City for 28 years, a jazz bar, I've been a successful business owner forever. That means success is watching your money. I'm going to watch your money, and my door will be open to you anytime. I'm Karen Nason.
Mr. Bala.
Thank you to the Quality of Life Coalition and Stevens for hosting this debate. I look forward to a constructive conversation about the challenges ahead for the city we all love. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I earned my undergraduate from UC Berkeley, my master's from the London School of Economics, and went to Tulane for law school in New Orleans. Then I came to Hoboken at the young age of 25, and now, 17 years later, I have a wife and 2 beautiful young children, and I'm proud to set roots in Hoboken and call this community my home. By any measure, Hoboken has come a long way since I was first elected to the council 8 years ago. Working closely together with Mayor Zimmer, we turned the city around and put it on a sound, long-term fiscal path, moving from the days of state supervision, an 80% tax increase, and junk bond status to now earning a AA+ bond rating for our city. We inherited a broken city hall with a well-earned reputation for corruption and cronyism, and restored integrity and competence to City Hall. I hope to serve you well as our next mayor.
And Mr. Batista.
Hi everyone, my name is Ron Bautista. I've been living in Hoboken for the past 18 years. I've and I'm running for mayor of Hoboken because I believe that we need more activists to run for office, more people who are focused on really transforming people's frustrations into real solutions. And I've been doing that for over a decade. I've been an advisor for Staten Island on transit alternative solutions. I've been an advisor for institutions like the New York State Department of State on how to connect government and the people. I've been an executive director for an education nonprofit, and I'm here fighting for you so that we can have a more people-friendly city. Buenas noches, yo soy el único candidato latino para la alcaldía de Hoboken. Yo me gradué de Hoboken High School en el año 2004 y yo tengo 18 años viviendo acá en Hoboken. Tengo años de experiencia, entre esos con instituciones como la gobernación del estado de Nueva York, y pienso yo que en la vida tenemos dos opciones: o nos frustramos en la política o hacemos algo y actuamos, y en eso estoy yo aquí. Estoy acá al frente luchando por ustedes para tener una ciudad más amable para la gente. Gracias.
All right, we'll begin with the first question. What I'm going to do as a policy here tonight, I'm going to hit this button and we'll have a refresh. And there it is. Ms. Nason will speak first on this question, which is, and I kind of like the assertive tone here of this question. Please describe in as much detail as possible your top development priorities for Hoboken. Telling us you want to study it or ask the community about it is not an answer with not underlined.
I'm sorry, can you say that one part again?
telling us what you want to study or what the community wants is not an answer. It would be what you underlined, would tell the city council, I guess it means. So, the top development goal, Ms. Nason's first.
Okay. Many of you here have heard that one of my biggest things is arts and culture. Last week with the Mile Square Theater, I did four-act plays on Tennessee Williams. I've watched the Mile Square Theater be blank and dark many nights, and it's a shame to me. We have no arts and culture in this city to speak of. I think that one of the first things I would tackle would bring a new theater, a new program, not just the one that we have. It's sorely lacking. Our musical programs, I have talked to, and I know I've said this before, and Ron Hine, if you're out there, Fund for a Better Waterfront, I would see a wonderful vision of a clamshell, a sort of amphitheater that would bring opera, bring some of the arts and music over from Manhattan to here. New York City would like to bring their shows as they close down. We have a ferry system. We can take those jazz players, bring over the jazz folks that are playing and closing their nighttime to here. Theaters that are closing down, bring them over here. Where's our Jazz Montreal Festival? That would be one of the first things I would tackle. I think the school systems are sorely lacking in some of those programs. I would like to see arts and culture be brought first and foremost. That would be one of my top priorities. Do I have experience in it? Absolutely. I ran one of the most successful jazz bars. I own the rights to the movie The Rose to put on Broadway, and this is sorry. There you go.
No, actually, so we don't allow applause now in this part, so sorry guys, I should have said. So from here on until the closing arguments, no applause. Mr. Batista next on development.
Yeah, so I'm a renter. I've been renting for the 18 years that I've been living here in Hoboken. And I do believe that renters, people who rent in Hoboken, can be committed to the city, can be committed to the community. And I believe that we have to think that we're all in the same, we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat. There is a displacement crisis. A lot of the people who I graduated high school with had to move out. I do believe that we have to focus, when we think about development, on mixed-use space, right? So that we can develop more jobs. We need more job generation here in Hoboken. That will also help the local businesses flourish as well. And also, I think that we have to be more proactive on protecting the renters' rights. We have to have built and have the focus of having a mixed income community. I think that we all benefit and we all grow together if we focus that way. And basically, part of that is, yes, we have a lot of people in 1 square mile. It's about how do we best share the space that we continue to have right now. And that has to do directly with transit, with better transit options. That's something that we can do in a very affordable, very flexible way, very quickly. And so that way we can all grow together both economically and manage the growth that is going to happen. Thank you.
No applause, please. No applause. Mr. DeFusco.
Thank you, Bob. You know, after spending 5 years on our city's zoning board, I know the exact deficiencies in our zoning book. One of the things that we've done wrong over the past 9 years is we've let unbridled residential development take over this city. That means development that's not actually benefiting our neighborhoods. We've seen 15 units pop up in certain neighborhoods, 50 and 400 in other neighborhoods. We need to get back to what holistic land use means. We need a planning department that's actually funded and understands that land use can be productive, it can be constructive. Now, what does that mean? We can build parks under my administration, but we're going to build parks that are surrounded by roadways that aren't choked with traffic. We're going to build parks that are surrounded by mom and pop shops. And we're going to be finally holding developers accountable for what they do in this city. That means having a dedicated infrastructure trust fund that is going to pay for the long overdue repairs on our sewer system as well as our pipes. Further, I want a vision for the future of this city. This is a vision that I share, but I know it's the economy of today, inviting in tech spaces. Mom and pop shops are great, but we need to know that the tech and maker economy is what's happening worldwide and nationally and we need it right here in Hoboken. I want to see us to turn our terminal building into an urban marketplace where makers, creators can produce and sell locally, steps from mass transportation. And I want to make sure that we have a community that's within walking distance of shops. That's what this community was many years ago. That's what this community has drifted away from, and that's what I'm bringing this community back to when I win this election and serve as your mayor. Thank you so much.
No applause, please. Mr. Bala.
I think we should allow a little bit of applause here, but
Then it becomes a contest of whose fans applaud more, and then it's a digression. Go ahead, Mr. Bala.
My biggest concern is overdevelopment. We are the fourth most densely populated city in the country, not the state, but in the country. That's a serious concern of mine. Now, obviously, the priorities in terms of future development, and there will be future development, it has to be sensible and driven by the community, or the North End and the rail yards, the Hoboken rail yards to the south. But when we talk about overdevelopment, I can't help but think about the hotel project behind Sinatra Park, the Sinatra Post Office building. What has been proposed and codified in a redevelopment plan is a 290-foot structure towering over Pier 8 Park, casting a shadow, and is Exhibit A of overdevelopment. This was originally conceived to be a boutique hotel. Then it was proposed as a 23-story hotel. Ultimately, what we saw the council pass was a 290-foot building that had no community givebacks whatsoever either. The so-called benefits were a world-class restaurant, which obviously is not for free for Hoboken residents, and banquet space also that doesn't come for free. So Councilman Doyle and myself voted against that project, and I'm concerned because if my council colleagues, and if they become mayor, might see this as an acceptable form of development, it might happen in the North End too. So that's a serious concern and a distinction of mine.
Mr. Romano.
First of all, we need to have smart growth, obviously. The mix of residential commercial is extremely important, but forget about building any skyscrapers here. We need to have small development. We need to have practical development that the consensus of the people of this city want, and that's what the leadership needs to provide. But something that strikes me here, the redevelopment plan, which hasn't been done, which has been sitting in the council for languishing for I don't know how many years, needs to be finished. And it needs to be codified as soon as possible because we have a zoning board that's doing everything by variance. So I think that's a very important priority that my administration would do. We need to bring jobs to this city. We need to involve the developers in giving back. We have firehouses that haven't been built since the 1920s. We have the last school built here in 1971. Many people want to see a municipal pool. And I think that going back to the history of Hoboken, where model cities came and where we are now, we have to keep the middle class. The middle class is what made this town during the bridging the gap between the urban decay and the revitalization. The middle class needs to be kept here. Affordable housing, how do we do that? Well, it says 90-10 in the city plan. I'd strive for 80-20, and I'd strive for the city to buy properties to make into affordable housing. I think that's an essential key. But again, the important thing is to work with what the people want for smart growth. Thank you.
Ms. Giattino.
The first thing we need to do is make sure that our zoning code actually reflects the needs and the wants of the residents of Hoboken and that we are not zoning through variance. After that, we need to look at Hoboken holistically and what kind of development will benefit us as residents. The North End, I feel very strongly that it is developed primarily commercially for several reasons. One, it diversifies our tax base. Two, it's less pressures on our infrastructure. Three, it's less pressure on our schools. Commercial development creates a daytime community that we currently do not have in Hoboken. That daytime community then benefits our local restaurants and businesses, and thriving businesses and restaurants is better for all of us. Councilman Bala spoke about the hotel. I voted for the hotel, and he talked about givebacks. We haven't adopted it yet. We've only done the plan. That comes in the agreement. But what we do know is we will be getting $1.3 million in tax revenues between property tax and hotel tax from them, and I see that as a huge give back to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, rebuttals on this.
Yeah, I'd like a rebuttal.
All right, Ms.
Is
Nathan.
that okay? I just want to say, I want to point out that, you know, Michael, you talk about the council members on board that you would like to build parks, but if I'm not mistaken, every park that has happened, and probably 4 or 5 of them are not completed if I'm not mistaken, everyone on this council voted for eminent domain. I was the first person to stand up for Academy Bus when you stole eminent domain's property, and every one of you voted yes for it. We've got parks out here that are not finished and completed, so it's nice that you can all talk about future parks and future development. Why don't we finish what we started? But for goodness sakes, the money, the bonding that's over $130 or $140 million, that's your taxpayers' money. These folks spent your money regardless what you thought, regardless if you were asked, and I find it deplorable that you can do the blame game on everybody else when you were just as responsible.
Any other? Mr. Romano, I saw next. Go ahead.
Just a further comment with regard to eminent domain. I think that should be a last resort. The definition of eminent domain, and the example that's always used, is the South Bronx, where the owners of the land vacated their property and the area was in urban decay. To use eminent domain here and to drag out the legal fees, which again is on you, the taxpayers, on all of us, is not a good idea. I think we need to negotiate with people, and we need to purchase the property in some way that's reasonable. Right now, we have a piece of property, the old BASF, was still completely contaminated. And we paid $30 million for a piece of contaminated land that now has to be completely remediated. So we have to figure out how that's going to be done. Thank you.
Other rebuttals?
Bob, if I may? You know, it's interesting that Anthony Romano talks about affordable housing when he's living in Marineview, yet owns millions of dollars worth of residential real estate all over the city, taking away a space from people that desperately need it. And it's interesting, Ravi Bala talks about his plan for the hotel when he doesn't understand that we have not inked a redevelopment agreement, and that's where we get the community givebacks. And what can community givebacks be? Infrastructure. So we don't have to bond $130 million. You know, so we don't have to go into debt to our water company, $8.5 million like we have under this administration. And Karen, you own a great coffee shop, but at the end of the day, when you sit on the city council, you vote for what you have. And when you have an opportunity to create a space for the community, you work with the mayor, you disagree with the mayor, but at the end of the day, you're elected to do a job. So when you're finally elected to a position, you'll understand what it means to collaborate, create, and innovate, you know, together as part of a team. Thank you very much, Bob.
Okay. One at a time. Other rebuttals. Mr. Bala.
Yes, just to clarify, Councilman Doyle and I fully support a hotel and the tax revenue and the amenities that it brings. The problem is that it's going to be the second tallest structure in the city of Hoboken on a very small footprint. That's the issue. I support something that's more scaled down in line with the charm and character of Hoboken. A lot of people move to Hoboken to get away. We don't want to become the next Newport City. We don't want to become the next Manhattan. And that's exactly the type of development that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Any other rebuttals? Ms. Giattino.
The reason the hotel got the height that it did was because if you take the bulk that it was given, the square footage that they were allowed to develop, and you created a perfect box, there would be no corridor when you were looking down Newark Street. So in order to keep it open when you were looking at the waterfront, and Councilman Bala was on the committee, we decided to do setbacks so it would open up the view to Pier A. That's why it became that size. It's much better than having a building where you would not be able to see Pier A from anywhere else in Hoboken. Thank you.
And other rebuttals. Mr. Batista's not gone yet.
Yeah, so if we are talking about supporting tech companies to bring them over to supporting local businesses and all those jobs and business that come into you know, the city, we have to think about transportation, transit. I mean, Amazon, for example, they're looking for their second headquarters, and part of their requirements for cities in order for them to bring that business and those teams of people over and jobs is to have infrastructure, bike infrastructure, and also to have a mass transit system. And we have that. We have mass transit system that we can really develop. For example, a bus rapid transit, which would be a network of protected, express lanes for buses and shuttles. And this has been done all over the place. I was an advisor for it in Staten Island, and it's something that can be done immediately. It can connect not just with New York City without traffic, but also with the rest of New Jersey as well.
All right, so if you guys could signal me in the future when you have when you want to go, but we'll just have one round of rebuttals and then we move on. You're welcome to use your future time however you want if you want to address something different. So moving on to the next question and hitting my magic button, Ms. Giattino will go first on this question. We all like the services in town, but someone ultimately has to pay for them, and we got a lot of questions about taxes, such as, what will you do to lower property taxes substantially for property owners of Hoboken? This one, what will you do to reduce or hold the line on property taxes? This, do you believe Hoboken pays a disproportionate share of county taxes? If so, how will you address that? If not, can you tell us what percentage Hoboken pays and what percentage of total county population we have? Kind of a leading question there, huh? And then we have more questions. You guys get the idea. Will taxes go up in your administration, is asked there. Ms. Giattino, first on taxes.
First, I'm going to talk about the county taxes. We are a victim of our own success. How taxes work is the assessed value, and fortunately, we live in a place where we all have very high assessed values. Is it disproportionate? Yes. People on Hudson Street pay more in taxes than people on Jefferson Street. The difference between the county and the city of Hoboken is the people on Hudson Street get the same services as the people on Jefferson Street. In Hudson County, the people of Hoboken do not get the same services as the rest of the county. So I did meet with Tom DeGees, and I spoke specifically about that. I said I understand that it's a state funding formula, and our county taxes are not going to go down. They will actually continue to go up if we're this successful. But what services can we get from the county that we're not currently getting? And we should start asking for things that we haven't asked for in the past. The county does come here and plow their county roads. While they're here, can they plow our roads as well so we don't have to? The county does an amazing job at maintaining Columbus Park, probably the best maintained park in the city. Can they also maintain our other parks? Of course, we would keep them, but could they maintain them? When it comes to development, commercial development will help diversify our tax base. And the hotel in particular, where we get hotel taxes directly from them, not just property taxes, that's a great benefit to all of us. Thank you.
Mr. Batista.
Yeah, so I think that instead of taxes, we have to look for other means of new sources of revenue as a city. And that starts with public-private partnerships. We have a beautiful waterfront. We have the Pier A. We've had concerts there before. But do we know if any money was developed was created from that? Resources could be done leveraging our competitive advantage as a city. And so we can partner up with entertainment companies so that we can have music festivals like other cities have done, so you can generate more funding so that it can be art funding art, right? There's another way to think about being resourceful. I've done this over the years. I worked with government before, so I completely understand the need to be very creative with this. And so one of the things is when we think of expanding mass transit, we have to think that we have to choose the mass transit system that won't create bigger costs. And the only one that is self-sustainable is a bus rapid transit system. That's why New York, for example, is expanding their select bus service, is because that is the way that we can expand. And that's why it takes so long to expand either the PATH train or the tunnels or, for example, the light rail, which took forever in order to expand. So we have to think about that. We have to be very strategic so that we can grow the city budget, grow the services that we can provide as a city without having to increase taxes.
Mr. Bala on taxes.
Yes. I have a track record on holding the line on taxes during the 8 years I've served as a council member, and I'm the only council member and only person at this table who was here in those days when we had a 80% increase in our municipal taxes. That's what actually compelled me to run for office. I said enough is enough, time to get off the sidelines and do something about it. How do you reduce taxes? Personnel is the biggest driver of property taxes. We had to do audits of our municipal departments, make tough decisions, and it's not easy to have right-sizing a department. That means possible layoffs, possible demotions, possible changes in personnel, but the mayor and I had to make those hard decisions, and I was there for those hard times, and that's what brought us property tax relief in the first 2 years of my service as a council member. So as a result of that, we've held the line on taxes, kept a stable tax base on the municipal level, for 8 years now, and we've moved from junk bond status, where when I first came to office, we couldn't even borrow. We couldn't even borrow for capital improvements, for a fire truck, or any capital improvement. Now we've transformed that to AA+. We can borrow at low interest rates, and it's a testament to our success in fiscal responsibility and holding the line on taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Romano.
Well, I want to thank Councilwoman Giattino. She apparently, and with some of the other council people, do understand the county tax formula, unlike Councilman DeFusco, who just seems to not get it. It's unfortunately, it's a state formula. I've sponsored a resolution with the whole board's support to ask the state to relook at this formula, which goes back many years. Also, I side with my constituents, understanding their pain. I voted against the county budget. But just some of the services. The largest rehabilitation project is the viaduct, which came in under cost, of which I attended all the pre-construction meetings and was on site. We came in on time and under cost, working with 3 different municipalities. Our county roads are the most paved, well paved in the city, clean, and our park, as was stated, is immaculate. We help out with the salt and the city streets. We've donated vehicles to the Hoboken Police Department. We financed 17 new police vehicles to the police department a few years ago. And we also help in any way that we can with the transportation of prisoners. The chief works very closely with the sheriff, and I think that's another important aspect that happens. What we need here is more commercial development, obviously. We need to also ensure, it goes back again, that the middle class doesn't suffer. There was a promise years ago of a 25% reduction in the municipal budget by this administration. It never materialized. So what we have to do is also work with the superintendent of schools on the Board of Ed budget. Thank you.
Mr. DeFusco.
Thank you, Bob. You know, Councilman Bali uses the term held the line on taxes. What exactly does that mean? Because although taxes have remained stable, our budgets have not. They've been propped up by unbridled residential development to the tune of $3 to $4 million a year. This is not smart. This is not healthy. Making sure that we have a diversified tax base when we can invite in mom and pop shops, tech incubator spaces, urban wineries, uses that belong in this city that are on the forefront of our creation and maker economy. Now, he also refers to a city that was in debt. Well, a little history for everybody. In 2009, then Councilwoman Dawn Zimmer never voted for the budget, sending in a state fiscal monitor here, which they are now claiming the successes for. So you got to look back in terms of the history. You got to look back in terms of the numbers. We have not done what we need to do to help small businesses and diversify our base. And in due respect to Freeholder Romano, who's sat idly by watching our county budget go up 84% over the last 9 years, I do understand how the county tax formula works, but I don't see that money going to the right things. I see it going to pet projects like his support of Observer Highway, a project that has completely decimated traffic and transportation in my district, and something that I had to work on the council with Councilman Ramos to fix. So thank you, Freeholder Romano, for your support on the county level. It has destroyed the traffic and transportation in our district. And in closing, everybody, what we need is a mayor that understands business. I come from the private sector. I've served this city municipally. We need to get back to basics and hold the line on budgets by inviting in new smart ratables. Thank you so much.
Ms. Nason.
As a small business owner, I find this fascinating that they're all sitting here talking about, conducting more businesses. I watched everyone in this council, and Michael DeFusco especially. You were the first person I went to when my business was shut down, absolutely unnecessarily so, and you promised me a subcommittee that never happened to talk about and save my business. From that subcommittee, Michael DeFusco turned it over to another council and then another council member. I promise you folks, these people sitting next to me are not business. They're not for business. They're the ones that shut it down. We've watched this go on for 8 years. Small businesses is running and driving force of the country. We need small businesses to come and flourish, and that will not happen until this council stops playing with the planning and the zoning office and how this pick and choose administration has been controlling this city for 8 years. It's got to stop. It wasn't just me who got shut down, and it wasn't just me who got targeted. I know you know what I'm talking about, and I know you've all felt it, and any business owner that's sitting here in this place right now knows exactly about the pick and choose that I speak of. We need business to flourish. that will be the tax base that'll help drive some unnecessary things that have happened. For example, I got 10 seconds. The 2% open trust, the 2% tax increase for open trust. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
It went somewhere
there are
else.
rebuttals on taxes. Mr. Romano, I see first.
I have never seen someone, as an elected official, misstate so many facts. Maybe Councilman DeFusco should be reminded, number one, it's not a waste of money when we provide veterans housing. We gave the grant with Hoboken. Homeless money that's donated. Let's ask the shelter where money goes. But another statement, Observer Highway and Willow Avenue. We were just the pass-through. Department of Transportation did this with this administration. The county executive and the county engineers, their advice was not heeded. So let's get that straight. And another thing, and you can ask the Marine View residents are not happy with his comments. We are not subsidized housing in Marine View. In fact, it's now market, and we pay a surcharge. So I'd like to enlighten the councilman to that fact. And also, the property that I own has been in my family for 60 years. I'm not a land baron. So I'd like to get the facts straight when we speak. And I think it's important that the people know that the truth is what is out there. Research it. Thank you.
Additional rebuttals on this, Mr. DeFusco.
Bob, if I may, Freeholder Romano mentions that he's just a pass-through, and that is really exemplary of the 9 years that we've seen him as a freeholder. He's now running for 2 offices at the same time, and I think that we need to pay attention to the fact that the work that Freeholder Romano has done has more so benefited the rest of Hudson County and not so much the folks here in Hoboken. Karen, you're operating a legal business. I tried to help you. You know, you were not zoned for that business.
One at a time, please.
Man, this is
One at a time. You'll have a response later. Go ahead.
There is no definition of event space, and we work to try to update the ordinance to update the definition of event space. We couldn't.
You did nothing.
Excuse me, one at a time, please.
You're attacking
No, Mr.
illegally.
DeFusco's time. Go ahead.
Thank you. Councilwoman Giattino and I both work tirelessly to attempt to expand the central business district and making sure we have ground floor retail spaces in line with the 2004 and 2010 master plan. Unfortunately, we were stonewalled by this administration. So again, Karen, if you understand what it's like to actually, I'm going to take a couple more seconds because I was interrupted.
No, you're not.
And
Hold on.
No, you're not. You've taken quite enough of our time.
Stand by. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. I'm running this, and we have a timekeeper, and that's the time, but we'll all be able to talk plenty more tonight. So that's your time for now.
I was interrupted, Bob.
Did you allot more time for that interruption? Hold on, Shelby, did you allot more time for the interruption? All right,
I think
so we'll give you 10 more seconds. Go ahead.
So the attempt to update our city zoning to help Karen and small businesses is something that Council President Giattino and I did, only to be stonewalled by this current administration under Ravi Bala. So thank you very much, Karen, for your small business leanings.
Okay. Do I hear other rebuttals? I saw Mr. Bala's hand first. Go ahead, Mr. Bala.
I just want to thank Councilman DeFusco in his initial remarks for acknowledging finally that we have kept taxes stable over the last 8 years. And that's what I mean by holding the line on taxes. You'd asked what I meant by holding the line on taxes. It means keeping taxes stable, and that's what we're proud to have done over these last 8 years. Thank you.
Any other rebuttals on this question? I see Ms. Giattino next.
I just want to be very clear. I've been on the council for 6 years. In my tenure, I have served on the Revenue and Finance Committee for all of them. So no, it was not just Councilman Bala and the mayor that held the line on taxes. As a matter of fact, it wasn't just me. It was all of us.
Any other rebuttals on this question?
Well, I think I should answer this. What do you think?
Hand signals. We're using hand signals. Ms. Nason, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm trying not to be angry about it, but it really bothers me. I've never ran an illegal business, and now I know where all the nice emails came from you, Michael. Is that correct? Yeah. So instead of talking about the real issues and about businesses that were shut down, Michael wants to thwart this on me, which his job was to be the subcommittee to put on the master plan what private events were. Because I held a private event.
One at a time. One at a time. Go ahead, Ms. Nason.
Because I had a private event space doesn't mean it was illegal. Sean McGarr and myself, who owns the House of Q, the Ainsworth, all of us, we put together a beautiful place for everyone to rent. Because unfortunately, they're all kid-happy places everywhere. There's no adult happy / family place to rent out for an event. So I'm sorry, I wasn't illegal, and you should really be ashamed of yourself. but I don't think so.
All right. Any other rebuttals? And I see finally Mr. Batista. Go ahead, sir.
I know we're all enjoying the show, but this is exactly why I'm running for office, because I think that we have to focus on the issues and a little less on like our personal little fights that we have. So, thank you.
Well, it's a business
One at a
fight.
time, please. One, Mr. Batista, go ahead. Oh, you're done. All right, all right. So that's it. So we're moving on to the next question. You guys having a good time out here so far? All right. Okay. So I'm going to hit the button, and that is, and Mr. Romano will answer this question, next question first. And we mentioned the taxes a second ago. Now the aforementioned services are referenced in a bunch of questions here. What's your plan to bring more recreation space to Hoboken? What specifically, what recreation will you bring to a public, will you bring a public swimming facility to Hoboken? I've heard a lot about a new multi-purpose rec center and facilities. Any plans for an ice hockey rink? Do you feel we need another soccer field? And what are your plans to improve recreation for teenagers? So let's talk about recreation. I think maybe the mood of the room could stand some recreational tone right now. Mr. Romano first.
Hoboken has a tremendous history in recreation. It's unbelievable now how many athletes, both adult and children, play. Wherever you go, there's different leagues. I'm fortunate, I play in a couple of these ZOG and ABL leagues, and it's an enjoyable experience. We need more active recreational space. I intend to bring on some professionals also. For example, with soccer, you have to Alex Lallouie, with basketball, Coach Hurley, with baseball, different people, because we have someone on the ticket, Buddy Matthews, is very successful. I think the YMCA needs to be looked at because it is in shambles and there's an area that could be used again in recreation. I feel that we lost the PAL charter somehow, and that is the third oldest in the United States, and it's been in the police department for many years, and the city has somehow lost the status. That needs to be brought back. I think that you have to make recreation where children don't have to pay. Apparently, there's charges going on to children, and for those of us that own property or rent or whatever else, children should not be paying. Therefore, I say we have a trust fund to be created, so where business people and developers contribute it. So when that children need anything, equipment, or need travel time, or need to rent buses, you have the resources that are there. It's very important to get this done. Recreation is very important.
Ms. Nason on recreation.
I'll be nice. I think one of the things that I was very shocked at, and I see Mark Villamar sitting here. Mark, I never understood why your bowling alley, you and Haney's bowling alley, was ever shut down and never happened, because bowling, isn't that a fantastic thing to do with your kids? And as an adult, I like bowling. For some reason, this, again, I talk about the pick and choose situations that have happened in Hoboken, responsible with this council. I would like to see Haney's entire area developed, but also that bowling alley was amazing. I see Kenny Ferranti up there. Hi, Kenny. And man, I appreciate everything you do. I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to reach out to you because a friend of mine in LA, who's head of the United Nations, is doing a fantastic thing with teaching, cops are teaching kids coding. It's so important, and it would be a wonderful thing to have kids who are underprivileged in this area be able to learn from cops or perhaps people who want to volunteer coding. Very important. When you talk about the tech world, that's something we could do. I also think that we are so sorely lacking, and I keep repeating it, in adult/family entertainment. Theater, guys, theater, concerts, jazz. I would open a jazz place here. Where is our arts? Where's our culture? I just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Mr. Bala.
I love jazz too, for the record. I agree with that. The issue is space. We don't have enough space. I have a daughter who loves soccer. I have a son who wants to be the next Derek Jeter. But we need to provide the space so that they can actually have the fields to achieve their dreams. I'm very proud of the accomplishments we've had in getting 1600 Park online. That is a highly utilized open space recreational park facility that is a testament to really good government. I'm also the only candidate that has an actual proposal to redevelop the multi-service center, and it's actually based upon a Stevens Institute study, which would potentially include a community pool, indoor year-round pool, potentially include an indoor ice skating rink and indoor turf field. And we're already creating active recreational space. I'd point to the project at 7th and Jackson, where we have the developer building a gymnasium for recreational use for our children at no cost to the city taxpayer. Thank you.
Mr. DeFusco.
Thank you, Bob. Let's walk before we run here, guys. Let's modernize our recreation department. There's no computers currently in City Hall inside the recreation department. So that's why when there's field changes, when there's coach changes on Saturday mornings, parents are scrambling around town. So we first and foremost need to buy computers for our recreation department. We need to use technology in this form of smartphone apps so we can push information around town so people know where their fields are and who their coaches are. We need to use social media to make sure that folks know what's happening around town. And quite frankly, recreation should be for more than just school-age families. It should be for everyone, for our seniors included. We need to rebuild our crumbling multi-service center, and I take offense to the fact that Councilman Bala says he's the only one with an actual plan. I've been speaking about this on the city council now since I've been on it. We need a space in the community that is truly multimodal, where you can bowl, Karen, where you can swim, and where you can have after-school activities for our hardworking families, because not everybody can afford daycare or after-school care for hardworking families. So we need to be thinking of this community as a whole, not just a few people in a certain community. We need to be thinking about the west side of town, where those families are working hard and may not be able to afford these programs. And finally, we need to diversify our recreation options. Not every kid is athletically inclined. We need to fight for fashion. We need to fight for technology. We need to fight for arts and entertainment and give our Hoboken families truly diversified options where every child can grow here, learn, and succeed. Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Batista on recreation.
Yeah, so part of being a people-friendly city means that we have to promote entrepreneurship, and then part of entrepreneurship is knowing how to use our current resources. For example, we have a pool at the Hoboken High School. How many people knew that by the raise of hands? Not some people, yes? Okay, so I'm talking to some people that they did not know that even went to high school in Hoboken High. So there's the use of that pool, for example. How about using our current fields as well? I lived for 14 years on 4th and Jackson, and you don't know when that field is open. Many times it's locked. The kids have to go jump the fence in order to go use it. Sometimes the lights are not on. So how about we start having the public fields being public, and also have that information. When can people have pickup games in the time frames and dates when there's no current paid leagues going on? Also, as mayor, I would like to work together with organizations, local organizations like the Hoboken Special Needs Parents Group. I believe that together we can develop recreation programs that are for children with special needs, and that's something that is very important. There's different activities that we can develop besides what the very specific ones that are going on right now. So thank you very much, and I hope to count with your support on this.
Ms. Giattino.
Because I'm fortunate enough to have 3 boys, I have spent more than my fair share of time on every field in Hoboken. Hoboken Rec could be run better, and it's not the people in the rec department, it's how it's organized. If you're a parent and your schedule isn't set from week to week, it's impossible to follow. You can't be getting a text saying baseball practice will be at 6 p.m. tonight, and you show up and it's canceled, or baseball game tomorrow at this time. We should have a set schedule right from the beginning. They do it in travel soccer, but travel soccer also has a lot more parent involvement than rec. I can say that unfortunately, rec in Hoboken is only known by the people who are in the know. Often parents are calling me after tryouts take place, asking me how can their kids try out. They didn't know there was a tryout. As a city, we do a very poor job of notifying people of when these things are. And I also strongly believe that the rec department should have other things besides sports. May not benefit my family, but there's plenty of families out there that would love to have an art class, would love to have a music class, and we could clearly do that. I did meet with the library and Jerry Fallow several months ago discussing possible ways to bring more arts into the rec department.
Any rebuttals on recreation in town?
Yes,
Ms. Nason,
thank you.
a show of hands normally for the
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm new to this. I just wanted to say that discussing all of this, the arts and the culture, I think that the floating pool idea was out there for a while, which was, a little silly, I think, but a floating pool over the Hudson River wasn't exactly what I thought would be great. But what I thought would be interesting is that we could have probably afforded that pool if you didn't have mailers coming in your every single day into your mailboxes. How many mailers are you guys getting a day? I think probably, and you haven't got one from me, have you? No, because I actually mean it when I say go green, and I think that 800,000 more probably was spent on flyers. That could have been your pool, I'm just saying.
Any other, Mr. Romano on recreation, rebuttal.
I think a lot of people talk about the pool. I think that that should be part of any agreements that are made with regards to any development on the northern part of town, and somehow have the developers pay for a pool. I think a key area, again, is that BASF property. There's your chance for a good, active field. We are starved for a field, but we have to figure out a way to work through grants or with developers to get that completely remediated so we can get that online. And the YMCA, I remember, and Chief Ferranti was part of it when we had the Weed and Seed program. My own son was part of it, where there was photography classes in the Y. We were in the schools with the athletic part. That seemed to just dissipate, and hopefully we can bring that back, and there's definitely a plan that I have to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Giattino.
The YMCA, we definitely need to work with them to activate that vacant space. But I want to really quickly talk about the 7th and Jackson project, where Councilman Bala stated we got which is correct, a gym. They got a 30-year pilot, which in essence makes them not pay $128 million over 30 years that we are now paying the rest of us. We got a gym, one gym. That's where we should have got our community center. I voted no.
Anyone else? Mr. DeFusco.
Thank you, Bob. I'm honored to be sitting between two sitting city council folks that have served for the past 5 years as our council presidents, and we're hearing now, oh, we should build a pool, oh, we should modernize our recreation department. But the question is, where have you guys been? Honestly, you have been at the side of Mayor Zimmer very proudly, and now not so proudly, but now you're talking about what you're going to change in terms of difference. Robbie, how are you going to pay for the multi-service center if you say no development can happen until infrastructure is laid? Jen, what are you going to do in terms of quality of life when you've been at those fields talking to parents, promising for this for the past 6 years? I believe we need to get back to basics, modernize our recreation department from the inside out, have smart public-private partnerships where we build a dome over 1600 Park, a seasonal dome so kids can practice there during the winter, and sponsor that through an outside company like a Red Bulls or or a Reebok. I work in marketing. I know how to make these things happen. These are possible. But what's not possible is for a change in the political conversation with either of the two candidates that are sitting to my sides.
Any other rebut? Mr. Bala.
Yeah, just briefly, it's incorrect to say that we got a gymnasium and that's it. As part of this deal, the givebacks, the community benefits included not just a gymnasium, but 2 acres of open space for parkland that is going to be developed by the developer, an underground water retention system that'll hold 350,000 gallons of rainwater, as well as 42 units of affordable housing, and the gymnasium. Plus, all of these community amenities or community benefits have to be built before the developer gets a CO for the for-profit aspect of the project, which is the residential units. So that is Exhibit A of good development. Thank you.
And Mr. Batista.
I raised my hand, right? So,
I did see that, yes.
So I think I agree with the public-private partnerships. I think that we have to collaborate and start looking into our community partners. We have people who are teaching martial arts at the Housing Authority for free for kids. How about we expand those type of programs? How about we don't reinvent the wheel and start working with organizations, with groups that, for example, just this past summer did a summer program in which they taught diverse arts to kids